So instead of making a slideshow, I decided to just go with the document because I would basically just put that in the slideshow instead. So this is my local AQI project. Um, it basically tries to detect the PM 2.5 concentration levels in a local neighborhood. This, for the purpose of this project, it is Lower Manhattan. And the connection to the course is basically that it uses APIs. I'm using Pandas. I'm using NumPy. I'm using sklearn. I'm using TensorFlow. I'm basically using everything that was taught in the course, and I'm also using some things that weren't taught in the course to basically make this prediction model. I think this is extremely important. I've always been a really big fan of walkable cities. So to me, this is something that means a lot because I think a city can't really be walkable if there are air quality issues. And I basically just wanted to see if traffic intensity is something that affects air quality. Um, and the purpose of that is that if the government or if people know that traffic intensity really does affect air quality and PM 2.5 concentration, which is bad for you, then maybe they'll be investing into more walkable cities and more public transport, and we'll have less cars. Um, so basically, the code's on CodeBench as well. It's the exact same code. This is my VS Code. Um, I basically just loaded this CSV file, um, which has the purple air data. So this is the purple air data that I got. This is for 2 weeks. Um, and it gets the kind of hourly data for 2 weeks, as you can see. It's per hour. So it goes from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., etc. Um, and I clean the data. And then I get the start date and the end date because it's only 2 weeks. And so basically, because there are two different channels here, like two different sensors, I basically combine the two sensors into one. And then I figure out the start date and the end date, which is what I do over here. And then I get the readings from Open Media, which is basically what I'm doing is if I can open up my project. Whoopsie. If I can open up my project, basically what's happening here is that um, we are getting the open media data uh, from Open Media, which is free. I didn't have to use like an API key or anything, which is why I chose to use this. In my initial project proposal, I chose to use something else, but then I realized that Open Media it's just better. No API key is always easy to deal with. So this is basically what the data is after I cleaned it. So I removed a couple columns, added a couple columns, or didn't add anything, but I removed a couple columns and I basically just standardized the time. And then I got data from the city of New York, um, basically using their Socrata API. I didn't even know that it had this, but basically New York has like automatic traffic intensity, basically that they, or not traffic intensity, but traffic volume that they automatically provide to you. So I basically just pulled it from their API, and then what I did was because as I said, right, this only has 2 weeks. I found the traffic intensity for a day based off of 50,000 data points, and then I basically gave it an intensity, and then I applied that intensity to any given day of the week, in order to basically circumvent the fact that I only had 2 weeks of data. And then I merged it basically, and while merging, it's written out in the project a little better, but basically while merging, I have like these lags, which basically means that like, so lag one, for example, so if for this random date at 8 p.m., the lag one for it would basically just be this exact, but would be the exact data for 7 p.m. just repeated. Um, and so that's basically what lag means. Roll three means just like the mean of the three previous ones. And then is rush hour and is weekend. I'm basically just trying to tell via the data set as much as I can to the model that, hey, if it's the rush hour, then there'll typically be more air pollution because there's more people out and about, and stuff like that, so that it basically has as much data as I can physically give it. And then there's like some data analysis here. Basically, what the core idea here is that we're seeing that weather and traffic um, are kind of in cadence, like in accordance with the PM 2.5 readings. Like they have like the same peaks for the most part. So my kind of hypothesis of is traffic intensity or traffic data like relevant to AQI is kind of beginning to. We're kind of seeing some correlation here, and so I have the correlation matrix here as well. As you can see, it's traffic intensity zero point 0.3, so it's 0.38, which is somewhat statistically significant given everything else. I'll go into this a little bit more after the random forest. So basically, the random forest um, happens. I'm not really going to get into the code. It's very standard random forest code. Um, I split the data into like train test and then yeah, it do train test and then I kind of print out the results. So as you can see here, there's it's actually very accurate for the or not very accurate, but the MAPE, which is the like the error rate basically is very low, and then the R squared is very high, which is obviously kind of what we want. And then we're seeing that the feature importance is mostly on lag one, and then we're seeing that it's very close to the prediction, which is making me think, is there a little bit of overfitting here? Is there maybe no overfitting here? I don't really know, but there's only 2 weeks worth of data. So in my mind, there's a little bit of overfitting happening over here. So I was kind of a little bit skeptical about there's also I have the long short term here, which is using a 12-hour lookup window, and it's only using, so I'm again splitting it over to 80/20 train test, and then um what I'm doing is kind of doing it uh and what we're basically seeing is that um it's not accurate at all. It has a, as we can see over here, there's a negative, it'll say somewhere, yeah, there's a negative R squared, right? And it has a very high error rate, which is not what we want. And this is basically because because I only had 2 weeks worth of data. I kind of mentioned this in the challenges. I just didn't have enough data. So what I ended up doing as I kind of extended this was I kind of added synthetic data. And the purpose of the synthetic data here basically was to give me a year's worth of data from 2024 to like for the entirety of 2024, as opposed to um, just the 2 weeks in 2026. And this is better for me because the New York traffic intensity, I don't have to do it the way I did with the whole figure out traffic intensity from traffic volume. I could just not do that because I can just get the data straight up. Because New York has the data for 2024, but they didn't have the data for 2026, obviously. Um, and so this is basically just doing the kind of what's it called? It's making the PM 2.5 values using synthetic, and I explained this a little bit better over here, but basically it's keeping in mind like seasonal factor, day and night cycle, um, you know, humidity, precipitation and all that. And it's making it, and it's so we can see here, it's kind of keeping in mind that like, okay, in the summer months it's a little bit higher. In like December, it's a little bit higher than in January, right? Because of Christmas and whatnot. So, and then over here, as we can see, it's kind of taking care of the day and night. And then we have like the random forest here that runs on the thing. And then the random forest shows that, hey, traffic intensity is in fact like a relevant statistic here. But the random forest didn't do as well. And it didn't do as well, I believe, simply because, and I again mentioned this over here, but I believe that it didn't do as well simply because of the data. I believe that the synthetic data that I have doesn't have enough um, variability. So we can see over here, the standard deviation is very low. Yeah, I think if I had a higher standard deviation here, the random forest and the LSTM would be a lot better. As you can see here, the LSTM, it's pretty good, I would say, at figuring out the general trend. But as we can see here, the kind of uh, it's definitely underfitting because As we can see on the eventual, like when you check the R squares for all of them, you'll see that the LSTM for the full year is zero point 0.2 basically, and that's the R squared for it, which means that it's kind of bad. And I believe that's because it's underfitting because the data just have enough variability. So I think in the future, if I had the chance to basically do this project again, I would probably, as like a long-term thing, I would probably try to get more data from Purple Air, try to get like a whole year, and then that would probably fix all of the issues. But if not, then I would try to find a better kind of equation for my PM 2.5 synthetic data because I believe that while I kept in mind all of the various factors, I think the variability just wasn't high enough. So I think I'd probably make it a little bit more variable. And thank you. That's my project. I really did try to make this work, and I think I did make it work with the extended by kind of giving you not just the actual data, but also like the synthetic data. And even with the synthetic data, I'm still using real data. I'm only using synthetic data where I just didn't have enough data, right, for the LSTM because LSTM needs a lot more data. So that's what I decided to do as like a cost benefit thing. And it's also the only thing that's really different from the proposal. Thank you.